In my experience, I think the most difficult part of going through this process is the mental toll it
Okay.
takes on one,
Yeah.
and for some persons, by extension, to their family as well.
Mm.
Because when you're going through these exams, it is your life.
Rutherfohrd. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chat with Rutherfohrd. My guest today has walked a remarkable path, transitioning our pharmacy journey from our home country now to Canada. She's a licensed pharmacist. So she's going to share her story, the success, how she got definitely to the successful path, the exam, the struggles, the high and lows. Without wasting much of our time, let's meet our guest today. Hello.
Hi, Ruth. Thank you very much for hosting me on your platform.
Yes.
Um, I'm really excited to be here, and much more, I'm excited to be sharing my story of transitioning as a pharmacist from Nigeria to Canada. As you can imagine, it comes with its ups and downs.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so let's get to meet you. Yeah, your background, how it all started, from your home country, definitely, before moving to Canada.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Ibukun Babarinde. I am a licensed pharmacist in Nigeria and Canada. And as you can imagine, my first license is in Nigeria, where I had most of my practice. And after practicing in Nigeria for about 10 years, thereabout, I thought it's necessary to expand my horizon and explore new opportunity in different climate. And that is the reason why I relocated to Canada with my family. It's been roughly about 3 years now that I've been in Canada, and I've approximately have been licensed in Canada for about almost a year now.
Wow.
Yeah, before, while I was in Nigeria, I was practicing as a pharmacist in a public health sector, uh, essentially working on leading project implementation in the HIV and AIDS, on HIV and AIDS project uh, in different parts of Nigeria. I worked in the north, I worked in the south, I worked in the west, a little bit of the east. Yeah, but yeah, it's just to say that I've gone really around, and my experience spanned different locations and scope of practice while
Mm,
working as a pharmacist in Nigeria.
okay. You already like gave us a bit of why you then moved to Canada. So
Mhm,
what about the Canada system, surprised you, or should I say shocked you,
mhm.
yeah, when you finally came, to start your pharmacy journey?
So, in terms of shock, I wouldn't say I was particularly shocked because I expected that there would be some differences between how the profession is being practiced back in Nigeria
Yeah.
and here in Canada, considering that the system over here in Canada is way more robust and developed, as we can imagine, not only in the health sector, but different other sector. So
Mhm.
I kind of expected that there would be differences in policies, in regulation, in guidelines that protect how the profession is being practiced. For one of the things that particularly stood out for me is the diligence in documentation of patient encounters in Canada. It is a
Okay.
very big deal to be able to document everything you do, and there is a robust database that connects different aspects of care for patients, both from the physician to pharmacists to different kind of cares to laboratory and all of that. And as you can imagine, I don't know how familiar you are with the database and data record in Nigeria is quite different and
Yes, definitely.
comparable. So, and what I appreciate about this is the fact that it makes care very efficient and safe for people. So
Mm,
that's one thing that stood out. Another thing that stood out for me is how the regulation is being enforced. I'll explain what I mean by that. In Nigeria, we do have regulations, and the body try as much as possible to regulate how people practice the profession. But I observed some loopholes that allows some things to slip out of the regulations purview. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say that something like this might not be
Happening here, right?
here, but it's not as much as what we see and know it to be back in Nigeria. So those are two key things that I think stood out for me. In terms of safety, patient care, I would say it's mostly comparable because people are compassionate back in Nigeria as much as they are here. They are very knowledgeable back in Nigeria as much as they are in Canada,
Mm.
and they care for patients within the resources that are available to them. So yeah, those are the two things that stood out in terms of difference for me.
Okay, okay, that's really amazing. So, that means you would say in general more like the process, detailed process that is being done here in Canada.
That's right.
Okay, okay, okay. That's very good. Now, can you walk us through like the steps you took in order to get licensed, like the exams, the here and there?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to do that. So the process is a very rigorous one. That is in all honesty and fact,
Mm,
as good and as bad as you would have it. It's rigorous,
okay.
and I imagine that that is somewhat intentional for the process to be that way because the expectations of practice here in Canada compared to Nigeria is is quite different. So the process of conversion is essentially you have to register with a body. It's called the NAPRA, and that body is responsible for the overall practice of pharmacy profession in Canada.
Canada.
Yeah, so that's the very first step you need to do. Once you do that, you then have to evaluate your education.
Mm,
Essentially, they want to be sure that your pharmacy degree back in whatever country you're coming from is equivalent to the bachelor's degree here in Canada. And once
okay.
that is
Makes sense.
established, they would give you an opportunity to start writing the exams. So there are three main exams that would be written before you can have the opportunity to be licensed. So after your
Really? That
yeah,
is huge. Whoa.
it is. And when I say main, it means that there are some other by the wayside kind of assessments and evaluation you would need to
It
do
doesn't
apart
come
from the
easy. It doesn't come easy.
no, 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 not at all. Not at all. So after passing the evaluation, document evaluation, and they are certified that your education is equivalent to a bachelor's in pharmacy in Canada, then
Mm,
you would have opportunity to write an evaluation exam. So that exam is potentially testing your knowledge, the knowledge of your bachelor's education. So depending on the country of qualification, it could be for 5 years studies or more. For some people, it's a little bit less, but for in my context, in Nigeria, it was 5 years studies. So the contest, they are testing for everything you had learned and to be sure that to evaluate that the knowledge you have is equivalent to the knowledge that a Canadian graduate also has as a
okay.
pharmacist professional. So the second exam is what they call the qualifying exams, and it's in two parts. So
Mm,
there is the multiple choice questions exams and the OSCE. As OSCE is a kind of like a simulation of real life practice kind of exam where you have opportunity to physically interact with a standard patient
mm,
and yeah in an examination mode, and
okay.
then both of them they go hand in hand to eventually qualify you and be registered into the pharmacy profession in any part of the country. So now, after those three exams are done, by the way, the qualifying exam is also being done by the Canadian graduate as well. So it's
Okay.
not just international pharmacy professionals that need to do that. So after
Mhm.
their regular education here in Canada, they would do the qualifying exams as well.
Okay.
So after that, then you decide on your province, or depending on your province of practice, you have to go through the process of licensing. And some of the documentation that would be needed along the way, right from the beginning, includes your your transcript from your school, your certificate from your school. You need to write IELTS. You need to get letter of good standing from your current jurisdiction, in this case, Nigeria or whatever country you were practicing.
Okay.
And yeah, police certificate alongside that. And then it also depends on the immigration pathway that everyone had gone through. So for people who had come in through say direct, they came in directly as a permanent resident, is different for them for from people who maybe came in as a student, and while they're studying for their education, they're also studying for the pharmacy exams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that pathway is entirely different for each person. And also to note that the evaluation exam and the multiple choice part of the qualifying exam can be written remotely outside of
Oh,
Canada. Yeah, so
okay.
there are categories of people who would write who are for even coming in, but the OSCE part, the practical one, you have to be in Canada. If you are not already, you have to travel into the country to do that. So qualifying exams are divided into two parts. There are two parts of the qualifying exam. The first part is the MCQ. The second part is the OSCE, which makes it, but there are two different exams on
Oh,
their own, even though they're combined together.
okay, okay.
Yeah, even if you're writing in Canada as well, you some people can write from home
Yeah.
remotely, remote proctoring, and if you want, you can go to a test center to do it. So I believe there has been some collaborations between different countries where they have established some relationship with some test centers that have been accredited, and they are able to write those tests from those locations.
What was like the toughest parts? Yeah, and was there any point you felt like giving up? Like, you know what, I can't, continue? Because actually, I have some friends here that have done the exam. They failed, and like,
Mhm.
because definitely when you fail, you definitely have to take it again. And you know
That's
how
right.
it is. It can be tiring.
In my experience, I think the most difficult part of going through this process is the mental toll it
Okay.
takes on one,
Yeah.
and for some persons, by extension, to their family as well.
Mm,
Because when you're going through these exams, it is your life. It is
mm,
all you have to do and need to do.
mm.
I was quite fortunate by the help of God to be able to write all my three exams at first attempt.
Wow.
So yeah, so friends that we started studying together, and they had to rewrite some of the exams at different
Mm,
points. Some of them are even still in the process till date.
wow.
They are not done. And I know someone that said, "Oh, I'll let it be. I don't know if I'm going to try
Mm.
again." After trying, they wrote the evaluation exam, I think twice. They passed on the third attempt. Then they wrote the MCQ qualifying exam once, and they didn't make it. So they said they were just going to.
Is there a limit to it, or like?
There is a limit.
Okay.
Yes, there's a limit for each of the exam. I think you have maximum of three trials.
Mm.
Yeah, you times. I think there is an opportunity to appeal for a fourth attempt after your third attempt. But you need to justify why. And according to, if I'm right, it's after the fourth attempt, if you still don't make it, you'd be advised to try other kind of profession, and you know what that means.